Hi there and welcome back to Clever Melon. Today we're covering episode 2 of our Introduction to Business series. And we're going to be looking at the business environments. So let's look at the business environments. When you think of a business environment, normally people automatically will see a area or community in which a business is actually operating in. So like the street side of the shop or the actual insides of the shop. But an environment is actually much more deeper than that, especially when it comes to business management and understanding what the business environments are about. So we're going to dive into that a bit more today. When it comes to business environments, we normally have two business environments. The first is our micro environment, and the second is our macro environment. And when it comes to our micro environment, the micro environment actually works within our macro environment. That's why we see it as the smaller circle compared to the bigger circle. So now when we're looking at the microenvironment, what does it actually mean to us? Well, the microenvironment covers the internal aspects of a company. It's looking at the business organization structure, the organizational culture, the team that's actually working inside of that business, things like that. So it's covering all of those different internal aspects of a company. In other words, it's basically the business itself. When it comes to the macro environment, now we can understand why we are saying that the micro environment works within the macro environment, because the macro environment is actually covering all the external aspects of the company. So it's looking at things like market factors, competitors, government policies, differences in politics, things like that, the economy. So it's very much the outside environment to the business. And that's why we say that the microenvironment is working within the macro environment. And that's why it's so important for us to actually look at the macro environment and the microenvironment and actually analyze these environments, because as you can see, our microenvironment sits within the macro environment, which means that not only are we getting internal aspects that's actually influencing our business, we're actually sitting with external actions and actors that actually are playing a big role in how our microenvironment is actually reacting. And that's why it's very important for us to analyze these two environments to see how we are going to establish ourselves within that areas. So we normally analyze these environments because we first want to be able to make better decisions when it comes to our company. We want to be able to meet challenges as they arise in these different environments. And we also want to be able to plan ahead. It's a very important thing from a strategic management point of view to be able to see where you're going to go with your company and how you're going to meet different challenges as arising, make decisions that are needed because of things like this that are actually influencing you from the micro and the macro environments. So how do we actually analyze these environments? Well, when it comes to our microenvironment, we like to use something that's called a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis, you can basically break it down into a quadrant type of diagram just to understand it. But when you actually use it, it's much better to use it like either in a table form or just to simply list it out. So what I do when I'm looking at a diagram like this, I like to break down how it actually works and what is the aim of the diagram. And you probably have heard of a SWOT analysis because it's a pretty common term nowadays. And if you haven't, don't stress, we're going to go through it in great detail. So basically your SWOT analysis is something like this. It says that you've got S, W, O, and T, okay? And S stands for our strengths, and W stands for our weaknesses. O stands for opportunities, and T stands for our threats. Now, when we look at this, we say that our opportunities and threats are very much of an external type of factor to consider for a business from the inside. Because now remember, we're looking at internal aspects. So how are our opportunities in the market going to affect our business internally? How are their threats going to impact our business if we don't actually meet them? And our strengths and weaknesses are looking more towards the internal aspects again, saying, as a business, what is our strengths? And as a business, what are our weaknesses? Now, the ultimate goal of this is that our weaknesses need to become strengths. And if we can't become strengths, we need to be able to use our strengths in order to mitigate our weaknesses. And likewise, our threats, we need to turn those into opportunities. And if we can't turn them into opportunities, we need to be able to use our strengths and our opportunities in order to actually prevent or to ease up on those threats that are actually challenging us. So now when it comes to our macro environment, we have to now consider what are we going to be testing. We're looking at the external environment now. So when we look at the external environment, how are we going to analyze it? We're going to be using a thing called a PESTLE analysis. A PESTLE analysis is broken down into this acronym. You got P, which stands for our political factors, E for our economic conditions, S for our social-cultural forces, and T for our technological factors. L is for our legal or regulatory environments and factors, and E is for our environmental factors. So let's break that down a bit. Political factors are those things like that's actually happening in politics at the moment. For example, elections that can have a big impact on the business. E, our economic conditions, that's literally looking at what is our economy like, what is our unemployment rate, inflation rates, tax rates, all those type of things. That's where we're looking at our economy. S is looking at our social cultural forces. Social cultural forces is looking at social impact. What is the public valuing at the moment for a business? What are they searching for when it comes to interacting with business? What is important to them? T, technological forces or factors. This is basically looking at how is technology changing or impacting us as a business? Are we going to be advancing with technology? How are we using AI, for example? That's a really big area that's booming at the moment, and that's impacting a lot of business and how we function. So we need to consider aspects like that when it comes to technology. The legal or the regulatory factors, that's looking at the legal realm. What legislation is out there? Are there changes in any legislation that's going to impact our business? Is it going to impact our employees? How is it going to impact our practices? Especially ethics. Ethics is very big right now. We are moving away from that aspect or idea that just because it's unethical but still legal, it's all right. We are now focusing more on the fact that it needs to be ethical and legal. And that's a very big thing, especially when it comes back to our socio-cultural forces, for example. Social impact has a big thing on ethics and vice versa. People are not going to support a company that's not ethically sound, or at least practicing ethically, or at least making changes to practice ethically. Our E is our environmental forces. This is basically looking at our natural environment. So are we practicing green, eco-friendly practices? Are we lessening our carbon footprint? How are we actually helping our natural environment? Those type of things are where we're going to consider that. Now, why don't we take a look at a practical example where we can actually use these two analyses to actually look at a business and how it would actually analyze these different environments. So let's say that we've got a business, and this business is a small organic farming business. We are focused on selling strawberries, and we can basically say that we are a local farmer. We focus on selling that at our local farmers markets. Currently, there are elections from a new town mayor in our small town. So that's an important thing to consider, especially when it comes to our external environments or the macro environments. So let's have a look. If we're going to look at our macro environment first, we're going to be doing our SWOT analysis. So our first aspect of the SWOT analysis is our strengths. So strength-wise, what are our strengths? Well, we produce and sell organic strawberries. We are growing locally and we are selling locally. So we've really got that get local aspect that we're looking for from a business. And that could be a real strength for us, especially when we're looking at people who are looking at just buying things that are focused in one area or from that community, and they want to support local communities. So that's a really good thing. Another thing is organic strawberries. People are looking for things that are GMO free, that they are focused on planting things and growing things that are healthy and nutritious and are not actually damaging or unhealthy for us down the line. So that's also a great thing to look at with our strength. Now, when it comes to our second aspect, weaknesses, we are looking at the fact that we can only produce a small batch of strawberries. Remember, we are a small farm. So that means that we're only going to get a small crop yield each time. And that could actually impact us because we might be sitting with a higher demand, but we have a lower supply of strawberries. So that is a big weakness for us that we need to consider working on. Now for our opportunities. We can diversify our fruits into other areas, such as like selling melons, for example. Or we can even just go and diversify into other variants of strawberries. For example, we see that there's that strawberry, it's called, I think it's a pine strawberry or something, and it's a mixture between a pineapple and a strawberry, and that taste is different and it's a unique taste. So there's things like that we can work on and try to develop our own variant that can actually specialize us and make us a unique company. And that's a different opportunity for us to exploit. Now for our final aspect, which is our threats. What are we facing in the challenge-wise? We face bigger competition, especially in our local grocery stores. Even though we are focused on our local farmers market, grocery stores are ultimately an aim for us, perhaps. And now we have to face the fact that we're facing bigger farms with more produce, and they're sitting in grocery stores already and have already established their brand name and everything and reputation. So that is a big threat to us. Another threat is that we're facing local competition. Who says that there's not other local farms around us that's selling strawberries? And they might be bigger and better at selling strawberries than us. And they have bigger crop yields, perhaps, and things like that. So that's a real big threat for us. Now, as we mentioned, our focus is on turning our weaknesses into strengths. So we saw that we have the strengths that we produce and sell organic strawberries, that we grow locally, and that we sell locally. Weakness-wise, we can only produce small batches of strawberries. So how are we going to meet this challenge? How are we going to turn our weaknesses into a strength? Well, we can focus on our quality and building our reputation, building our brand equity in our local marketplace. That can become a real big thing for us, a competitive advantage for us, if we can establish ourselves as a reputable brand and actually gain more customers and increase our customer base because of how well we are doing and how well we do our practices, how well we professionally act, how our brand reacts to things, how our strawberries are tasting. Everything like that is a really big thing that can actually build up our brand equity, and that can become a competitive advantage for us down the line. So that's one way for us to meet our weaknesses. Even though we are selling smaller batches, it means that we can now create that uniqueness to our product and draw in customers, because now they want to get our product. Even though it's a smaller supply, we're now increasing our demand in a way that's like, oh, I need to get my hands on that strawberry because it's really good strawberries. So if you get what I'm trying to say, it's building that idea or concept that we are selling a very specialized or unique object or product that actually is drawing in customers and increasing demand for our product, which is also increasing our customers and hence in growing our sales. And that is a really great way for us to build our brand equity, because we're building that reputation and gaining our consumers' trust and learning how to actually communicate with our consumers and meet their needs when it comes to our products. Now, when we're looking at our threats and changing those into opportunities, we saw that our opportunity-wise, we can diversify. We can diversify into other fruits. We can diversify our variants of strawberries. Threat-wise, we are facing big competition, especially in our grocery markets. We're also facing a lot of competition locally, just from our local farmers. So how are we going to change and turn that threat into an opportunity for us to exploit? Well, like I said with our strengths, let's play to our strengths. Let's focus on our quality and building that reputation. Let's build our brand equity in our local marketplace. Because we're facing larger competition, rather take the competition and focus on the competition that's right there in that moment. Yes, we might want to expand down the line to a grocery market, but our focus is now on our local farming market. So we need to be able to build that reputation and actually start gaining consumer trust in our local farmer market. And there we'll start building our name, and we're not taking on our local competition instead. So breaking it down will actually help us, because then we can start growing our business. And then as we grow, we might actually gain higher market shares. That's the idea. We're working towards building that larger market share, and that can actually help us because we'll eventually be on the same level as our other competitors in the marketplace. And from there, we can actually move now into grocery chains and start testing the waters there and facing off a competition there. So the whole idea is building consumer trust and building that brand equity and creating that reputable brand that we are looking to create with our strawberries. Okay, so now let's take a look at our macro environment. And when we're looking at our macro environment, remember we're using a thing called a PESTLE analysis. So our first P is our political factors. And let's say that we did a deeper dive. We did more research. That's a very important thing when it comes to making decisions like this. You need to be able to research and look at what's actually happening around you as a business. But the thing is that you need to be aware that you shouldn't get caught up in the facts and the data. You need to be able to still be able to make a decision even if you have limited amounts of data. So don't tell yourself that you can't make a decision because you don't have perfect data. Rather work with what you have and be flexible enough to actually meet challenges as they arise and be able to change and adapt your plans and decisions as you go. So let's go back to our political factors. We did a deeper dive on the election that's happening for mayor. And we found that one candidate is very supportive of local business, while the other candidate is more focused on bringing in new, bigger business to our community. So how is it going to actually impact us? Well, if we look at it like this, we can say that our possible analysis of the situation is that if the first mayor is chosen, it could be really good for us. I mean, we can use that for our marketing advantage because people who are supporting that candidate are interested in small local business perhaps. And that means that we can actually draw in more customers and really play to that strength that we have of being a local, organic, small farm. But if the latter mayor is chosen, that means that we need to be aware of the fact that we are going to be facing off against new competition and bigger competition perhaps, even on a small local farmers market. So that could be a really big issue for us, and that's why we need to create these things called barriers to entry. I'll get into this more as we keep going, but for now, let's just define that our barriers of entry are those methods that we use to protect our competitive advantage from new competitors. These can be things like networking with our customers and building that reputation so they can trust us straight away. Even when other business walks in, they'll be like, oh, no, but I like the taste of this one. I'm not going to go and taste those strawberries. You get what I'm trying to say? It can be government policies or community policies even. So things like that can really impact how we are going to be able to protect our brand, protect our product from other competition. Now, if we're going to go look at our economic conditions, let's do a deeper dive there. So we all know that inflation is a really big issue for even just an average person, not even to mention a business. How is that going to impact our food items? We are businesses focused on food and the cost of living is going up. So how is that going to affect us and how are we going to be able to meet that challenge? How is it impacting the prices that we can charge for a punnet of strawberries? How is it affecting our consumer choices when it comes to actually deciding, should I buy the strawberries or should I rather use that money and go buy something that's more affordable, for example, or that's more what I actually need, not what I want? So that's a very big thing for us to consider. So how are we going to meet that challenge? Well, one possible way we can looking at this whole situation is looking at how we're going to be charging our effective prices. So are we going to be making it affordable? Are we going to be able to still be able to earn a profit by making it affordable? And that's a very key thing, especially when we're looking at our competitors. For example, if you look at our third point, watch competitors and how they are pricing. We need to be able to be doing that competitor analysis. We need to be looking at our competitors, doing the market research, looking at how they are actually interacting with their customers, how they are changing, how they're adapting to the situation. Just because you're following their thing is not actually a bad idea. Especially as a small farm, we are learning how to navigate this new market space that we're actually interacting in. And that is a great way for us to do it is by actually doing competitor analysis, looking at how they're doing things, looking at trends that they're doing, looking at how they are actually going to be meeting this big issue about how to make things affordable, but still keep it at a price that actually gives us back our profit that we're looking to make. Another thing is that we need to be able to encourage consumers to see that our product is actually a healthier choice. For example, they might rather go and buy something that's a little bit less nutritious because it's more affordable. But because we are more nutritious, we should be playing on that aspect and being like, but look, strawberries are healthier for you. They'll help you live longer. They improve your health. They improve your lifestyle. So things like that we can really play with and really encourage that organic approach that we're looking at, saying we're organic farmers. We're clean when we do our products. We are focusing on providing good and healthy food. So that's something that we really need to work on as well. Now we're going to be looking at our socio-cultural factors. So what does it mean for us? Well, we're going to be doing a deeper dive on the public. Remember how I mentioned that social impact is very important? Well, we need to be able to see what is impacting our society in general. What is it that they're valuing? Are they valuing nutrition? Are they valuing trust? What are they valuing when it comes to a business, especially one that's an organic farm? We see that a lot of people are moving away, or at least trying to move away from bigger brands, unhealthy food, and start living a healthier lifestyle. This could be a real big positive for us it's also a challenge in a way, because we need to be able to draw in that consumers that are actually focused on living healthier or improving their lifestyles. So how are we going to be meeting this challenge? Well, the public is looking for things and products and businesses that they can trust. That is a very big issue right now, especially with things being recalled all the time, or with people just like finding out that a business is actually not ethically doing what it was supposed to do. So we're really looking at a public that's focused on building trust with that company and actually knowing that they can trust that brand and that it actually is doing and saying what it is doing. So our focus should be establishing on that organic brand that we are looking at. We need to be establishing that we are organic farmers. We're focused on clean and healthy living. We are creating that brand and that trust between us and our customers. And that means that we need to be networking with them, finding out what it is that they are looking for, what do they desire when it comes to our product and our business. The next factor we're going to be looking at is our technological factors. And we need to do a deeper dive on the technology industry. We need to see, how is technology changing around us? How is it going to impact our business? Like, for example, like I mentioned, AI. How is that going to actually impact our small local farming market? And how's it going to impact our small farming business? How are we going to be able to integrate that perhaps into our business plan? So how are we going to be meeting that technological challenge? Well, we can say that we can now include technology in our farming operations. Perhaps there's better equipment. Perhaps we can even go into hydroponics, for example. That is a great way of including technology into our gardens. And we can even perhaps create self-watering garden sets or something like that that actually helps us to also look at the soil and to actually see, okay, it's getting enough water for our strawberries and things like that. And we can even use it when it comes to our marketing. For example, we can use social media. We can use social media to interact with our consumers in a local marketplace. We can also do this by using AI, for example, to go and create specialized messages or communications that can actually draw in the interest of our consumer markets and actually be like, hey, look, we've got strawberries that are grown organically and locally. They're fresh. They're perfect for eating. They are healthy, nutritious. You see, we can play a lot with technology and use that to actually help our little business grow better. So now when it comes to our legal or regulatory factors, we need to be looking at the legal environment. So what do we need to be aware of here? Well, we need to be seeing what changes are happening in the legislation. How, is it going to impact our business? Those type of things. We need to see what changes are happening around our health regulations. We are a farming business. We're focused on giving food. We need to be able to make sure that what we give out is actually safe for public consumption, especially long term, not just in our short term. And most importantly, we need to be looking at ethics. Are we acting ethically as a business? How are we practicing our ethics? How are we showing that we are committed to ethical practices? So our analysis of the situation is that we need to be staying ahead of legislative changes, and that means that we need to be researching and actually following the news around any farming, small business, labor rights, those type of things. Anything that can impact us from a legislative point of view, we need to be aware of so we can actually work towards fixing the problem or meeting that challenge, or even being prepared beforehand so that we know how it's going to impact us and actually be able to navigate that situation much quicker and easier. We also need to maybe perhaps consider reaching out to lawyers in the area who can actually give us more specialized knowledge and advice when it comes to creating different things or looking at different aspects of legislation. And we also need to be practicing ethically, not just legally. We need to be focused on what is really important morally and valuably, and not just looking at, oh, is it legal? Okay, that's good. If it's unethical, it's okay, as long as it's legal. We need to avoid that. We need to be focusing on actually looking at how we are conducting our business and start acting in a more ethical manner. And that means embracing the idea that if you've done something wrong, you need to be able to fix it. You need to be able to communicate how you're going to be approaching ethics. How are you going to be ethically sound when it comes to your business practice? And that's a very important thing. And even speaks back to our social impact if we think about it that way. Because people are looking for a brand that they can trust. And if we can show that we are acting ethically and working towards being an ethical business, that can be a really good potential advantage for us. Now let's consider our final E in the PESTLE analysis, the environmental forces. So when it comes to this, we need to be doing a deeper dive on the natural environment. We need to be aware of the effect that we are having on the natural environment, especially because we are a farming business. Farming the land, the land is where we're getting our actual product from. So if we're not taking care of it, that could be really a bad thing for us, because it'll not only impact our business, but it affects everybody else around us. And that's a very important part of our business, is we need to be able to grow our strawberries and make them healthy and nutritious, and still approach that organic approach, but also be eco-friendly at the same time. So how are we going to be analyzing that situation? Well, we need to be promoting our eco-farming practices. For example, we also were talking about hydroponics. That's a great way to go eco-friendly. Conserving water. How about using those self-watering water beds? That's a great way to go and conserve water. And then the last thing we can be doing is encouraging our local pollinators. We can be using local plants and vegetation that actually draws them in, and getting rid of alien species that can be harmful. So that's a really big thing that we need to consider when it comes to our environment and how we are actually working to preserving it. Because that also speaks to our social impact, for example. It also can be impacting our ethics and even legal things. If you're not taking care of your environment, you can be fined. If not, even worse charges can be applied to you, especially depending on the extent of damage that you're doing. So especially because this is our business, that's our fundamental of our business, is that we are using the land in order to get our product. So we need to be really conscious about how we are taking care of our lands and our natural environments. So as you can see, when we use a analysis for the microenvironment, we're really focused on using a SWOT analysis. And when we're looking at the macro environment, we are focused on using a PESTLE analysis. And that the microenvironment is inside the macro environment, but both of them are speaking to each other. And that is where we are going to end for today. Thank you for joining me. It's been great having you here, and I hope you guys learned something really valuable and will be able to take this into wherever you go, or even into your own business practice, or even into your schoolwork, for example, when it comes to business management and learning about it. So thank you for joining me. I hope to see you for the next episode, and that's it. Bye bye.